When police swooped on the Commonwealth Bank at the Junction last year, the bandits had fled, but their escape had been critically delayed by this man. Thanks to his information and the guidance of a quick-witted taxi driver who followed the bank robbers, an arrest was made within hours. Ralph Masters' wounds have healed since the day he tackled two desperate men, but he still recalls the event vividly. When he drove past the bank and saw the masked men leaving a car, Ralph knew exactly what they were doing. He confronted them as they returned. Already Ralph had done more than could be expected of anyone, but he wasn't finished yet.
When he got in the passenger door, I grabbed when he got in the driver's door, I grabbed the passenger's door and I had an umbrella that I found in the car and I smashed the glass in it and I tried to reef the door off just to make it conspicuous. Then the second bloke came out when I was doing that. And I tried to get the money bag off him. But he was too good for me too. I was running out of puff by this.
The great-grandfather and retired Executive Chief Superintendent of Police received formal notification today that he was to be awarded the Queen's Star of Bravery. It was a proud moment for Ralph and for his wife Joy, even if she was the one who gave him a stern lecture on the day of the incident.
The community perception is that people still need help after the December earthquake, yet applications to the Lord Mayor's Relief Fund have been slow. Newcastle City Council, in search of some hard facts about how ratepayers are coping, sent out this questionnaire leaflet.
We have to date 22,000 have been returned, with 3,000 requesting assistance. That assistance is being given. At this stage we have the Red Cross volunteers that are phoning up those 3,000 people to ascertain what their needs are.
15 volunteers from the Red Cross have been based in City Hall, working a bank of phones on roster. They've been contacting people who indicated they needed help and then redirecting them to organisations which can offer specialist assistance. The volunteers are averaging 100 calls a day and expect to clear the backlog in 3 weeks.
This is Elizabeth from Red Cross. I'm ringing about the earthquake damage questionnaire you sent into the Newcastle Council.
Everyone called has appreciated the follow-up, although their problems are many and varied, ranging from individual counselling, insurance delays or problems with builders.
We're amazed at just how many people are sitting out there with problems in their homes and not actually doing anything about it.
Where necessary, the Red Cross is arranging personal home visits, but more volunteers are needed. John Church, NBN News.
Over 250 craft entered the championships, making it the biggest regatta in the Southern Hemisphere. 4 divisions are sailed, with lasers, Northbridge Seniors and Cherubs in 1, Flying Ants, Spirals and Sabos in 2. Division 3 is for multi-hulls, and there is a section for sailboards. In all, over 60 different types of craft are taking part. The series, which finishes tomorrow, has consisted of an invitation race followed by 4 heats, and many current and former Australian champions have begun their climb to national honours at these championships. Today's conditions were anything but ideal, and organisers are hoping the wind arrives to drive away the rain and provide conditions conducive to top sailing. Right from the outset, the signs were there that the Falcons were going to do it tough, as Scott Ninnis drove through the scant defence to score easily. Mark Davis, one of the all-time great players of the NBL, found further holes to widen the gap for Adelaide. The Falcons' only answer was to fire from outside, and they were led by their captain, Michael Johnson. To make it harder for the Falcons, Boomers star Mike Mackay came off the bench to nail a couple of three-point shots, which stretched the lead to more than 20 in the first stanza. Adelaide used all the court space to set up many raids, and this time it was Mackay and Bradke who combined brilliantly. James Bullock tried desperately to get the Falcons back in the match, and on this occasion got around his marker Davis to score. But more often than not, the Falcons really had to fight for every point they got, with the Adelaide defence superb on most sorties to the bucket. As the game progressed to its inevitable conclusion, Davis, then Mackay, added nails to the coffin, and it will take a big effort from Ken Cole's kids to beat Perth tonight. A reminder that the Adelaide Falcons game is our replay in Saturday night shootout tonight.
.105.3 New FM celebrating our first birthday. It's 2-1.
In just 1 year, New FM has already taken 29% of the Newcastle market. Now they've moved into a new $1.5 million office block and studios. Australian Broadcasting Tribunal Chairman Deirdre O'Connor, who controls the licensing of new stations, opened the complex today. While the government has plans to promote another 15 licences in regional areas, she says Newcastle will miss out.
There's been a downturn in the radio industry, and certainly the forward planning, which goes on for 3 or 4 years into the future, doesn't have plans for more services for Newcastle.
It looked like the charge of the pep parade before the game, and as it turned out, Alan McMahon may have wanted to use them as fresh reserves. Brisbane cut through some dreadful Knights defence right from the start, with Gene Miles and little Alan Langer opening up gaps all over the place. Gene Miles signalled he was going to stifle all Knights raids with a big shot on Harrigan. And the inevitable happened midway through the first half. The Knights caught short wide out. Brisbane should have scored again quickly, but Alfie Langer threw a shocker, and 4 points went begging. But 3 minutes later, Shearer made amends. $10-0 at half-time, and immediately on the resumption, Brisbane were in again, with Langer and Miles combining to put Plowman in. It was a sorry sight for the Knights, and Glenn Miller decided that if you couldn't beat 13, how about 10? As first Madison, then G hit the deck. Brisbane replied with Horf scoring his second. Alan McMahon was forced to make changes, and it was replacement fullback Ashley Gordon who scored his side's only points for the day. However, the Knights couldn't sustain the momentum, and Dale Shearer used individual brilliance to put Horf in for number 3. To cap off a great day for Brisbane, Miles was superb and Willie Kahn does the rest.
In days gone by, Norfolk Island pines were a dominant feature of Newcastle. Already the City Council has taken the lead by planting some of the trees in Pacific Street. Today, 4 more were planted outside the Hunter Street Heritage Centre and the Public Works building, replacing those damaged over the years. Also replaced were the Victorian-style tree guards, copied from original photographs. The National Trust says today's ceremony will mark the beginning of a register to document significant trees in the Hunter. Turning the first sods were former Lord Mayor Joy Cummings, helped along by the younger generation, keen to make their mark for generations to come.
Immediately after the earthquake, victims were largely taken at face value. The normal checks and balances abandoned as welfare authorities dealt with thousands of distraught people applying for help at the Broadmeadow Relief Centre. No one doubted the story of a young single mother who allegedly claimed her Mayfield home and most of her possessions had been destroyed in the quake. The family was set up in short-term motel accommodation and given a cheque to replace essential items. St Vincent de Paul helped out, and the Lord Mayor's earthquake appeal gave a further $500. In all, the family received close to $7,000 in assistance. However, police inquiries have subsequently led to an arrest. Detectives allege the woman never lived at the Mayfield address. She's been charged with obtaining financial benefits by deception, and the officers involved in this case say this incident is only the tip of the iceberg.
Since this one has been reported, we've had another 5 handed over to the police from the Disaster Welfare Centre, and there's a large number of others being looked at now.
Police are investigating alleged frauds totalling $24,000. The Earthquake Disaster Relief Centre is still processing applications. Any thought to be suspect will be handed to police for further investigation. All applicants are now visited in their homes, a luxury that wasn't always possible in the midst of the crisis.
So immediately after the earthquake, someone could apply for assistance, state their home had been destroyed, their possessions had been destroyed, and receive money.
Yes, correct.
No checking at all?
No checking was done at all.
Does that worry you?
Yes, it does.
Meantime, still on quake relief, the Newcastle branch of the ALP has delivered what could be seen as a slap in the face to Labor Lord Mayor John McNaughton. The branch says the administration of the Lord Mayor's Fund appears to be obsessed by bureaucratic procedures lacking any sense of urgency. And on the other side of the political spectrum, Liberal Alderman Ashley Saunders will tonight call on Newcastle Council to appoint an external auditor to the fund to quell growing community disquiet. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
Alderman Ashley Saunders was a man with a mission tonight, determined to convince his Newcastle City Council peers that an external audit was the way to save the flagging credibility of the Lord Mayor's Earthquake Appeal Fund.
Yes, I am, and in fact I've been pleased today by the amount of support that I've received in the community. There is a lot of support in the community for what I've proposed, and I certainly hope that support is reflected in the council meeting tonight.
But he needn't have worried. Aldermen from both sides of the political fence were quick to voice their support for the proposal. Even Lord Mayor John McNaughton gave it his stamp of approval.
As far as an external audit
fund is concerned, that can be done without any delay in dispersing the funds and can go on at the same time. We have approval from the Auditor General to do it. He will be doing it forthwith if it's requested by the Town Clerk, which no problem is organised. So I got quite happy with those suggestions.
But things are still not running smoothly. Council is keen to appoint more public servants to cope with earthquake-related matters, but unwilling to use money raised by the appeal to fund their appointment. Aldermen are hoping for state or federal help, but Town Clerk Barry Lewis, fresh from a meeting with the Premier's department, could give them no new hope.
They were not in the position at that stage to indicate whether funding would come from the state government or not, and I didn't expect that to take place in any case.
Some say the appointments are vital and must be made regardless of government attitudes.
If we say we wait for the government, we're being somewhat negative in our response to it. I think we've got to say, okay, if the government wants to come with us and be in partnership with us, okay. But if they don't, well, it's their problem.
But many aldermen expressed fears that the tragic flooding of outback New South Wales and Queensland would push Newcastle to the back of the funding line. Independent Alderman John Tate was in favour of retaining a degree of bargaining power.
It simply makes good horse sense to say, well, this is what we can do, give us the funding. But if we run around saying, well, we're going to do it anyway, there's not much incentive to collect the money.
While the rest of the night's camp were in Sydney watching country take on city, President Max Fox was recovering from an appearance before the judiciary. He represented Glenn Miller without success, but says his complaints are not just sour grapes. Miller was given a 4-week suspension for this tackle on Bronco lock Terry Madison, and the Knights were willing to accept the umpire's decision. They only wish Miller was given the same courtesy. The referee saw this tackle on G and decided no action was necessary. The league thought otherwise and tacked an extra week onto Miller's unwanted holiday.
That decision was questioned by the General Manager of the Rugby League, who has the power to do so. I believe on reading the rules, but to me, to exercise it over the decision of a referee whose decision would normally be final and who has a clear, uninterrupted view of it, to me was, as a sporting decision, a decision in sport, very difficult to accept.
The league's move to overturn the referee's decision is a baffling one. This infamous blunder by Graham Annesley received plenty of publicity but no attention from the league, and the irony isn't lost on the Knights.
The incident with referee Graham Annesley was where he openly, on viewing the video, said, well, I made a mistake, and that cost the team 2 points. And nothing was done about that. Is this going to be a forerunner to things of that nature happening? I don't know.
The Knights will not lodge an appeal as the laws of the game state they cannot unless they have fresh evidence. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News. A flu-ridden Sam Stewart only ventured outdoors for a brief chat to Sam Jr. today, such as the extent of his illness. Still, he's determined to be fully fit for a wrestle with some slightly bigger boys come Saturday.
Unfortunately, I've picked up the flu the last couple of days and trying to shake it in the dying stages of this week. It'll be nice to get rid of it for Saturday, bearing in mind the importance of the game. So I've been to regular visits to the doctor and spent a bit of time in bed.
4 weeks on the sidelines have taken their toll on Big Sam's match fitness, but he has plenty of incentive to turn in a top-notch performance.
We're playing Balmain, which are sort of no easy team, that's for sure, and playing them down there. And we've got to also restore a bit of pride into ourselves after the last 2 weeks' efforts. We haven't come very good on the scoreboard. And as well for me and for a couple of other fellas in the team, New Zealand selectors and the new New Zealand coach is going to be present watching the game and following our form.
Another man on the comeback trail is Knights discard turned Toronto tearaway Jason Edwards, missing presumed talking to Sydney clubs today after a 4-try performance against City Firsts.
I would think that he's got a bigger future than the local competition in Newcastle. Certainly there'd be a lot of clubs in the Winfield Cup that would be looking to snap him up, and we certainly would wish him all the best because he's got a big football future in front of him.
After losing their first 2 competition games, the Balmain Tigers have stepped up their 1990 campaign, and last Saturday against Parramatta, the Tigers walloped the Eels by 17 points. The next day, the Knights received a football lesson from Brisbane, a rare happening on the hallowed turf of the International Sports Centre. However, hopes are high for tomorrow's clash, and if the past 2 seasons' results between the 2 clubs is any guide to an outcome, it's anybody's match. For the record, the Tigers have won 2 of the 4 encounters, the same as the Knights, and those 2 losses to Balmain were by 2 points on each occasion. Both teams will have plenty of players backing up from Wednesday's City Country matches, and early possession will be important. For Knights coach Alan McMahon, he's had a pretty tough week answering his team's performance of last Sunday.
Well, it goes with the territory, doesn't it? You know, every coach has got to accept that because I'm sure, you know, even a bloke like Warren Ryan, he's probably felt it with Canterbury, Wests and Newtown, so probably even Balmain, I don't know. But you just goes with the territory, you just got to accept it.
It may have been a sign of the times at a light training session this afternoon that McMahon, Robbie McCormick and new boy Marty Creeker practised field kicking, an area that has been weakened with the withdrawal of Gary Worth and an area that has let the Knights down in past weeks. But Alan McMahon knows the Balmain present a big hurdle on the road to recovery.
Well, yeah, we've had some great results, but of course they're not going to help us tomorrow, are they? You know, we've got to start again, and hopefully it will be a pretty good result for us. But it'll only come after a bit of hard work.